You never really meet an Aries the way you meet other people. You feel them, you absorb their energy like a shock to the system. Fast, loud, alive. 1 minute, you're minding your business, and the next, you're completely caught up in their world. And it's not because they're trying to impress you. They don't have to. Aries show up as they are, unapologetic, raw, and real. That's exactly what makes them unforgettable. They're the kind of people who say exactly what they think without filtering a single word. And while that might throw you off at first, you start craving that honesty, because in a world full of masks, they're pure fire. They're the kind of person who makes you laugh louder, feel deeper, and react faster. Everything is intense. Everything feels like it matters more. They might frustrate you, they might challenge you, but they'll also make you feel seen. And that's rare. Aries have a way of igniting something in people, whether it's confidence, confrontation, or courage. It's like they awaken a version of you that had been quietly sleeping. And once that version wakes up, it doesn't go back to sleep easily. That's why when they leave, whether it's a breakup, a falling out, or just distance, their absence isn't quiet. It's loud. It echoes. You catch yourself remembering the way they lit up a room, the way they spoke like every word had weight, the way they lived like they had no time to waste. And just when you start to wonder why their memory still lingers so vividly, it hits you. It's because of how they entered your life, like a fire you never saw coming. And speaking of fire, let's talk about the first 2 reasons why it's almost impossible to forget an Aries. Reason number 1, they burn bright from the very beginning. There's something magnetic about Aries, not in a soft, slow build kind of way, but in a sudden, overwhelming surge. You don't gradually become aware of them. You notice them instantly. They walk into the room and the energy shifts. It's like something wild just stepped in. Bold, unapologetic, full of life. And while everyone else is still figuring out the temperature, Aries is already setting the fire. Their presence doesn't sneak up on you. It grabs you. And not just because they're loud or charismatic, it's because they're real. And real is rare. Real stands out. They don't hide who they are to make others comfortable. They don't edit themselves for approval. Aries show up exactly as they are, raw, honest, and completely unfiltered. And it's that authenticity that shakes something loose in you. When you first connect with them, it's like your internal volume dial gets turned up. Conversations become more animated. Everything feels more vivid. You don't just hear what they say, you feel it. Their energy is a force. It pulls you into the moment whether you were ready or not. And once you've felt that kind of spark, anything less feels dull. What's unforgettable is not just the brightness they bring, it's how suddenly they bring it. One day your life has a certain rhythm. The next, they're in it, unpredictable, passionate, alive. And you realize how quiet it was before, how numb you might have been. They don't just make an entrance, they leave an imprint. They shake up your routine, your mindset, your entire emotional system. Even if they don't stay long, the fire they start inside you keeps burning. You find yourself thinking about them in the middle of a silent afternoon, or when you're standing somewhere you once stood with them. And you don't remember every word. You remember how alive you felt in their presence. Because no one enters your world like an Aries. They don't come to blend in. They come to ignite. Reason number 2, life with them is anything but boring. If there's one thing Aries can't tolerate, it's stagnation. They crave motion, evolution, noise. They don't just want to live, they want to experience. And if you're close to them, that becomes your reality too. You'll never hear them say, let's just sit and do nothing for long. Even in stillness, their minds are racing with ideas, plans, challenges to conquer. Being with an Aries is like constantly being caught in the middle of a brainstorm. They're planning 3 moves ahead and still somehow fully invested in the chaos of the present. They want to try new things, go new places, break rules, rewrite their story. And they want you to do it with them. What makes this unforgettable is that they pull you out of your comfort zone without even trying. You find yourself saying yes to things you never imagined. Spontaneous road trips, midnight conversations that turn into sunrise, big dreams you never had the guts to say out loud. Aries don't make life exciting for show. They are excitement, in its purest, most untamed form. They'll challenge you to stop waiting for the right moment, to take the risk, to quit the job, to say the truth. Even if you push back, their energy plants seeds in your mind, seeds that grow into boldness later, sometimes long after they're gone. Because once you've seen how they live, full volume, full speed, it's hard to accept a life that's half-lived. You'll also notice how they inject passion into everything. A walk through the grocery store becomes a comedy act. Making dinner turns into a shared mission. Watching a movie, suddenly you're debating plot twists like it's life or death. And you love it. You love that nothing feels flat with them. But here's the twist. That kind of energy leaves a void when it's gone. After Aries, the silence feels louder. The calm doesn't feel peaceful. It feels empty. You look for them in new people. You hope someone else will make your heart race that way again. But most people aren't built like them. Most people don't live with their kind of fire. And deep down, you know it. You know it when you try to explain them to someone else and stumble over the words. You can't describe the Aries experience. You had to live it. And once you've lived it, it stays with you. Because they didn't just entertain you, they changed the way you look at time, risk, fun, and fear. You start to realize that their wildness wasn't recklessness, it was freedom. And that's when it hits you. They didn't just make life less boring, they made you braver. But that kind of passion doesn't only show up in adventures or wild plans. No, it shows up most in how they feel. In love, in conflict, in truth. That's where we go next. Let's talk about passion and honesty, and how Aries make both unforgettable. Reason number 3, they love with a passion that scars. To be loved by an Aries is to be seen, fully, intensely, and without reservation. They don't love halfway. There's no slow burn, no waiting for the right time. The second they feel it, they act. And when they love you, they don't dip their toes into the water. They jump head first. No hesitation, no safety net. Their love is fierce, consuming, and sometimes chaotic, but above all, it's real. They won't love you out of convenience or comfort. They love because they can't help it, because you sparked something in them that demanded to be felt. And once that fire starts, it spreads into your daily life, into your decisions, into your identity. It's the kind of love that doesn't ask for permission. It claims space. You feel it in the little things. The way they look at you like you're the only person in the world worth paying attention to. The way they defend you, even in rooms where you're not present. The way they'll challenge you to be better, not because they don't accept you, but because they believe in you. But love like that isn't gentle. It's not always smooth. Aries don't hold back, and they don't know how to love passively. They'll call you out, push your buttons, and expect you to rise with them. They believe love should move you, wake you up, make you feel something. And if it doesn't, it isn't worth having. When it ends, it doesn't just fade. It leaves a mark, even if time passes, even if you both move on. There's always a part of you that remembers how intensely you were once loved. Not just liked, not just tolerated, loved. Completely, unapologetically, and loudly. That kind of love lingers. It leaves echoes in the people you date after. It makes other affections feel smaller. And not because those people aren't trying, but because your bar was raised. You knew what it was to be loved without holding back. You knew what it was to be chosen over and over again by someone who didn't play it safe. And once you've had that, it's impossible to forget. Reason number 4, their honesty stays with you long after they've gone. Here's the thing about Aries. They're not wired for sugarcoating. They don't tell you what you want to hear just to keep the peace. They tell you the truth, the unfiltered, sometimes uncomfortable, raw truth. And in a world that often rewards politeness over authenticity, that can feel like a punch to the gut. But that honesty, it's a gift. Even when it stings, especially when it stings, because they are not trying to hurt you. They're trying to wake you up, to show you where you're settling, where you're hiding, where you're lying to yourself. Aries will be the one to say what everyone else is afraid to say. And while it might lead to friction in the moment later, when you're alone with your thoughts, you'll remember their words. You'll remember how they told you to stop shrinking yourself, how they told you to go after the thing you were scared of, how they called out the self-sabotage you thought no one could see. You'll hear their voice in the back of your mind, when you're on the verge of quitting, or when you're playing it safe, or when you're pretending to be okay when you're not. They become that internal push you didn't know you needed. And the truth is, you might have hated it in the moment. You might have fought back, gotten defensive, even distanced yourself. But eventually, you'll see it for what it was. Love in its most honest form. Because Aries don't lie to the people they care about. They don't flatter to gain favor. They care too much to be fake. And if they were honest with you, it means you mattered. That's why, even long after they're gone, their words echo. In your decisions, in your growth, in your healing, other people may come and go. But the way an Aries held up a mirror to your truths, that never really fades. And when you think about it, those two things, the way they love and the way they speak, aren't really separate. They come from the same place, the same fire, the same refusal to do anything by halves. But that fire doesn't stop with love or truce. It shows up in everything they do, how they chase dreams, how they argue, how they show up in a crisis. Aries bring intensity wherever they go. And when that intensity touches you, it rewires you. Which brings us to the next part of why it's so hard to forget them. Because even when the love fades and the voice quiets, you still carry their energy in the way you live. Reason number 5, their confidence is addictive. You notice it right away. It's not the loud kind, the showy, attention-seeking performance that's all about impressing others. No, Aries' confidence is something deeper. It's the way they walk into a room and act like they belong there, without needing to ask for permission. It's the way they speak with certainty, like they've already decided the outcome and dare the world to prove them wrong. It's not that they never feel fear or doubt. They do, but they move anyway, and that's what pulls people in. That's what makes you watch them with a mix of awe and disbelief, because even when they don't have all the answers, they act like they'll figure it out on the way, and more often than not, they do. That kind of self-trust is magnetic. You find yourself wanting to be near them just to see how they do it, just to feel a little of that energy for yourself. And here's the thing, it rubs off. Being around an Aries makes you bolder. They give you permission to stop overthinking and start doing, not with a lecture, just by example. You'll notice the shift. Suddenly you're speaking up more, you're making choices without obsessively asking for approval. You're walking into new spaces like maybe you do belong there after all. It's not because they told you to, it's because they make confidence feel possible. And when they're gone, you still carry it. Maybe not in the same full-force way they did, but in your own way. You'll remember how they didn't shrink themselves, and it'll remind you not to shrink either. They leave you with a model of what it looks like to be self-owned, to take up space, to know your worth without apology. And even if you're still learning to stand that tall, the memory of their stance stays with you. That's what makes it addictive. Not the attention they get, but the freedom they live with. Watching them trust themselves so fully plants a question in you. What if I could do the same? Reason number 6. Arguments with them feel like art. Now let's be honest. Fighting with an Aries isn't easy. It's not quiet. It's not passive. They don't let things simmer in silence. They confront. Immediately, directly, loudly sometimes. And while that can be overwhelming in the moment, it's also unforgettable. There's a strange beauty in how they argue. It's not calculated or manipulative. It's pure emotion, unfiltered and on fire. They care deeply, and when something matters to them, especially when you matter to them, they'll fight to be heard, to fix it, to break through. You'll remember the arguments not because they were painful, though they can be, but because of what they revealed. Aries won't let a problem sit under the surface. They want it out. They want to deal with it, even if it means raising their voice or getting a little too real. That honesty, it's part of the fight, and weirdly, part of the connection. Because while most people avoid conflict, Aries dive into it. They see it as part of loving someone, being willing to hash it out, to challenge each other, to care enough to clash. They won't give you the silent treatment. They'll give you fire. They'll give you everything. And here's what's wild. Once it's over, it's over. They don't hold grudges. They explode, process, and move forward. There's a cleansing in it, like a storm that clears the air. You both come out of it raw, maybe a little bruised, but clearer, stronger, closer. That intensity stays with you. Later, when you're with someone who avoids every hard conversation, who says it's fine when it clearly isn't, you'll miss the way Aries fought to fix it. You'll miss the way they cared enough to get angry. You'll miss the fire, because under all the shouting, the tension, the passion was love. Real, messy, demanding love. The kind that wants resolution, not avoidance. And honestly, you'll never argue the same way again. Not because you want drama, but because now you know what it's like to be fully engaged. To be in the ring with someone who won't back down, who won't give up on figuring it out. You won't settle for silence after that. You'll want connection, depth, fire, even in the hard moments. And that's the paradox of Aries. They're the storm and the sun that breaks through after. They make you feel everything more deeply, even conflict, especially conflict. But that depth doesn't stop at fighting. It shows up in everything they do, in the way they chase their goals, in the way they take risks, in the way they light up a room with their laughter. Aries don't do anything halfway, which brings us to the next reason they're impossible to forget: their fearless action and the way they make you feel more alive than anyone else ever has. Reason number 7, they don't hesitate, they act. You can always spot an Aries by how quickly they move. They don't wait for the stars to align or for someone to give them permission. If they want something, they go after it. If they believe in something, they say it. If a moment calls for action, they answer it without second guessing. And to someone used to overthinking, over-planning, or over-apologizing, this can be jarring at first. But then, it becomes inspiring, refreshing, even life-changing. Aries have this deep, wired-in belief that action beats fear, that momentum matters more than perfection. And it shows in everything, from how they chase goals to how they send that bold, risky text without waiting for the right time. They jump, and somehow, watching them do it makes you want to jump too. They're not reckless for the sake of being wild. They're just not afraid to try. And even when they fail, they don't linger in shame or spiral in regret. They brush it off, say, well, that didn't work, and pivot. To them, mistakes are just data, detours, not dead ends. And that attitude is contagious. You start to see how much time you've wasted hesitating, how many chances you didn't take because you were scared to look foolish. Then you remember the Aries who just went for it, without waiting for the green light from the universe. You remember how they started things before they felt ready, and you realize they lived louder, braver, freer. That's what makes them unforgettable. Not just that they acted, but that they gave you the courage to act too. Because Aries don't just leap for themselves. They show the people around them what's possible when you stop holding back, when you move, even when you're scared, especially when you're scared. And that leads into something even deeper, something harder to explain, but even harder to forget. Reason number 8, they make you feel more alive than anyone else ever has. There's a reason Aries are associated with fire. It's not just about energy or speed. It's about life force. When you're around them, you feel things more intensely. You laugh louder, you talk faster, you care harder. Everything is turned up, like someone reached inside you and twisted the volume knob to max. They live with urgency. Not in a panicked, chaotic way, but in a passionate, present, awake kind of way. They don't coast. They don't numb out. They feel everything, and they make sure you do too. Even their flaws have life in them. Their impatience, their impulsiveness, their stubborn streak, it's all part of the same spark, and that spark is impossible to ignore. They'll pull you into their world without asking, and suddenly you're making bolder choices, saying what you mean, living like the moment matters, because to them it does. Every moment is a chance to feel something, to say something real, to do something meaningful. Aries don't sleepwalk through life, and they won't let you either. And when they love you, it's like getting hit with lightning. There's no slow simmer, no playing games, just full-on emotional intensity, as if they've waited their whole life to find you. It's overwhelming, yes, but also rare. It's the kind of love that demands your attention and changes the way you define connection. Even when it's messy, even when it burns a little, it awakens you. You start noticing how dull things feel without them. how quiet the room seems, how conversations don't have that same spark. Other people start to feel muted by comparison, not because they're lacking, but because Aries set the bar so high. You remember what it felt like to be challenged, to be seen, to be ignited. They didn't just date you or befriend you or pass through your life. They lit you up. And once you felt that kind of fire, there's no going back. You carry it in your bones, in your decisions, in the way you speak now, more boldly than before, in the way you move through your days, just a little faster, a little louder, a little more awake. That's what Aries leave behind. Not just memories, not just stories, but a whole new rhythm inside you. And even though they might be gone now, in body, in title, in relationship status, their impact still echoes in every risk you take, in every truth you speak, in every moment you choose to live instead of just existing. But as unforgettable as their presence is, there's something equally unforgettable about their absence, about the way they can disappear without warning, leaving behind an ache, a silence, a space no one else seems able to fill. And that takes us directly into the next reason why Aries are so hard to forget. Let's talk about the way they leave and the energy they leave behind. Reason number 9, when they leave, they vanish, and the silence is deafening. With Aries, everything is loud. Their laugh, their presence, their love, their anger, they live in full color. But what really leaves a mark, what truly gets under your skin, is the way they leave. Because when an Aries is done, really done, they don't fade out gradually. They don't stay in your life as a safe what if or a lukewarm memory. They cut, clean, sharp, sudden. One moment they're everywhere, in every part of your routine, every corner of your thoughts, and the next, they're gone. No drama, no endless closure conversations, just distance, space, silence, and it hits harder than you expect. It's not just about missing them, it's about adjusting to the lack of them. The absence of texts that made your heart race, the sound of their voice calling you out or lifting you up, the energy they brought into a room or into your life, like oxygen into lungs you didn't know were suffocating. You think you'll be fine. You think it'll get easier with time. But the truth is, the contrast between who your life was with them and who you are without them is so stark. It feels almost unreal, like you stepped into a quieter version of your world, one that feels safer but somehow emptier. And the hardest part, you rarely get to ask why. Aries don't always explain. They move fast, and when they've made their decision, they rarely turn around. It's not cruelty, it's clarity. Once their heart checks out, they don't pretend. They don't linger to give you false hope, but their absence, that lingers. In the music you used to play together, in the places you once visited, in the reflex to tell them something funny and realizing you can't. They leave like a fire suddenly extinguished. One minute you're warm, lit, alive, and the next, dark. And in that darkness, you realize just how much light they brought. Reason number 10, their joy is loud and it stays with you. Aries don't just bring intensity, they bring joy. And not the polite, smile for the camera kind. Their joy is big, bold, almost childlike in its purity. It's the way they throw their head back when they laugh, the way they dance without music, the way they celebrate the tiniest wins like they just conquered the world. They don't hide their excitement, they radiate it, and that's rare. It's easy to dismiss happiness as something soft, something quiet, but Aries show you that joy can be loud, it can be wild, it can be contagious. You could be in the worst mood, and one joke from them, one ridiculous comment, and suddenly you're laughing, really laughing. The kind that makes your chest ache, the kind that reminds you what it feels like to let go. They have this uncanny ability to turn even the most ordinary moment into something memorable. A walk to the store becomes a comedy sketch. A casual dinner turns into a spontaneous karaoke session. Life feels bigger when you're around them because they make it impossible to sleepwalk through it. And it's not forced. It's not performative. Their joy comes from presence, from paying attention, from squeezing meaning out of every moment and finding reasons to laugh, when most people are still trying to look cool. You remember it vividly, the way their eyes lit up, the way they made you laugh at yourself instead of shame yourself, the way they turned stress into silliness without dismissing your pain. They brought levity when you needed it most and probably didn't even realize they were doing it. It's not until after they're gone that you fully grasp what that energy meant. You go through your day with a little less laughter. You realize your smile feels heavier. You miss the freedom to be silly, the space they created where nothing had to be perfect, just real. You find yourself searching for that spark in other people, hoping someone will make you laugh like they did. But it's hard to recreate because Aries don't follow scripts. They are the chaos, the fun, the life, and that kind of joy, the reckless, unfiltered, fully present kind, isn't something you forget. It's something you chase, whether you realize it or not. And that's what's so painfully beautiful about being close to an Aries. Even when they are gone, the best parts of them stay. Their energy imprints itself on you. Their fire leaves a warmth that never quite cools, and their laughter. Sometimes when things get quiet, you still hear it, but there's something deeper still, something more than presence and louder than absence. Because when Aries connects with you, whether they love you, fight with you, or challenge you, they don't just touch your life, they change you. And that brings us into the final layer of what makes them so unforgettable. Not just what they brought into your world, but how they reshaped it and the version of you they left behind. Reason number 11, they don't just touch your life, they change you. Most people pass through your story like guests in a room. They enter gently, leave quietly, maybe rearrange a few things on the shelf. But in Aries, they come in like a storm. They flip the furniture, open the windows, and let the wind blow through everything stale and stuck. They don't just visit your life, they transform it. At first it might feel overwhelming. Their energy is intense, their expectations high. They challenge you, sometimes bluntly, sometimes recklessly. They ask the questions you've been avoiding. They push you to say things you've been afraid to say out loud. And without realizing it, you begin to shift. Because Aries don't connect with surface-level versions of people. They don't want polite conversations or filtered emotions. They want the real you, the bold you, the angry, passionate, unfiltered, terrified, but honest you. They want your full self, and if you're brave enough to give it to them, they'll give you the same in return. They challenge your limits, not in a way that breaks you, but in a way that reveals you. You'll try things you wouldn't have dared before. You'll walk away from things you outgrew, but never had the courage to leave. You'll start to realize how much you were holding back before they arrived. And even if you didn't always appreciate it in the moment, even if it felt like too much, too fast, too raw, you'll look back and see it clearly. They cracked something open in you. They awakened a version of yourself that was buried under fear or routine or self-doubt. And once that version came alive, it didn't go back to sleep. They didn't just enter your life, they rerouted it. And that's why you can't forget them. Because the person you are now, the bolder, louder, more honest version of you, is a direct result of their presence. You hear their voice when you make a hard decision. You feel their influence when you take a risk. You carry their spirit in the way you now stand up for yourself, or speak your truth, or chase what you want without apology. Even if they're not physically near you anymore, they're still there. In your actions, in your growth, in your fire. Reason number 12. After them, nothing else feels the same. It's not that you don't move on. Life moves. Time does its work. New people arrive. Some bring peace. Some bring comfort. Some even bring joy. But none bring that fire, that wildness, that raw, electric, can't sleep, can't pretend you're fine kind of connection. Because Aries don't just leave a memory, they leave a standard, a level of emotional intensity, of honesty, of presence that you didn't know to expect before them. But now that you've had it, you recognize its absence. You notice it when someone hesitates to speak their truth, when someone avoids conflict instead of facing it, when someone loves you gently but without fire, and you try, truly you try, to accept the quieter love, the more cautious energy, the balanced life, but deep down, you miss the chaos. You miss the way Aries made things matter, the way they made you feel like every emotion had weight, like every second was urgent, like every version of yourself deserved to be seen, even the messy ones. You remember the laughter that shook your ribs, the fights that shook your pride, the kisses that didn't feel like routine. You remember feeling fully, loudly, messily, and you wonder if anything else will ever make you feel that alive again. That's the curse of Aries. They awaken your senses, and once awakened, they don't easily go numb. You might try to recreate it. You might chase that energy in new places, in new people, but deep down, it was never about the setting. It was about them. That one person who showed up like a firework in the middle of your ordinary life and turned everything into color. And now, even in their absence, you're still chasing that spark, still measuring moments by the way they made you feel. It's not regret, it's not grief, it's just truth. They changed the atmosphere of your world, and no matter how far they've gone, that shift remains, because some people come to teach you lessons, others come to offer love, but Aries come to reignite you. And even as you try to describe them, you find yourself running out of words. Because how do you explain fire to someone who's only ever known warmth? How do you describe a storm to someone who's only known rain? You can't. You just feel it. You carry it. You live a little louder because of it. And that brings us to the final moment in this journey. Because now that we've felt the fire, the laughter, the chaos, the love, and the silence, the question is, what do you remember most? So here we are. We've walked through 12 unforgettable reasons why Aries are so impossible to forget. And maybe, by now, you're realizing just how much one Aries has shaped your story. Or maybe you're an Aries yourself, suddenly seeing how deeply your fire affects the people around you. Let's take a moment to breathe that in. We started with how Aries burst into your life like lightning, full of light, speed, and intensity. Number 1 reminded us of that entrance. Bright, sudden, unforgettable. Number 2 showed us how they make even the smallest moments feel like an adventure. How boredom doesn't stand a chance when they're around. We felt the heat of number 3, their passionate love that scars. The kind that changes you for better or for worse, but never lets you feel unloved. And number 4 gave us the truth. The raw, sometimes painful honesty they serve straight, never watered down. Honesty that echoes in your mind long after they've walked out of the room. Number 5 brought us into their fearless confidence, how they carry themselves with a kind of authority that's magnetic, and how that energy begins to rub off on you. Then came number 6, where even arguments become something intimate, something meaningful, because Aries never fight just to fight. They fight to feel, to heal, to connect. Number 7 reminded us of how quickly they act, how they leap without fear, without second guessing, and how they teach you, through example, how to trust yourself. Then in number 8, we dove into what might be the most powerful part of all, how alive they make you feel, the way they charge the atmosphere, the way they remind you that life isn't meant to be survived quietly, it's meant to be lived. And then, the silence. Number 9 broke our hearts a bit, didn't it? That sudden, sharp, complete absence. That void they leave when they go. That unanswered space where once there was fire. And just when we felt the ache, number 10 reminded us of their laughter. Loud, contagious, wild. A joy that fills rooms and lives. A joy that somehow sticks around long after they do. And finally, we reached number 11 and number 12. The lasting impact. The way they change you. The way no one else quite compares. The way the world feels different after them. Because Aries don't just pass through your life. They redefine it. If you've been nodding through this video, reliving old conversations, old fights, old kisses, maybe even tearing up, you're not alone. That's what Aries do. They awaken memory. They leave marks. And they remind you that you once felt something real. Now, if this video made you feel something, if it brought someone to mind or helped you understand yourself better, I want to ask you for a few things. Simple things, but they make a huge difference to us here at Secret of the Zodiac. First, subscribe to the channel. If you love astrology, if you love honest, soul-deep content like this, we're building a whole community here for people just like you. People who feel deeply, who remember clearly, and who want to understand the people in their lives and themselves on a deeper level. Second, hit that like button. It helps push this video to more people, people who might need to hear this today, people who maybe just said goodbye to an Aries or still carry one in their heart. Third, and this one matters most, leave a comment below. Let's make this comment section a place to remember, to reflect, to feel. Tell us, what's one thing you'll never forget about an Aries? Was it the way they loved? The way they argued? The way they left? Was it you? Let's flood the comments with real stories. Let's turn this video into a shared memory space. We'll be reading every single one. And finally, this one's personal. If you've ever wondered how to give back to a channel like this, or help us keep these videos coming daily, please consider hitting the Super Thanks button. It's a small donation feature that helps us cover production costs, research time, editing, and the hours of work it takes to create these videos. Even a little goes a long way. If you've ever watched a video here and felt like it spoke to your soul, that's the best way to say thank you and help us keep going. We do this because we love it. But with your support, we can do more. Deeper stories, daily uploads, and more science explored in beautiful, honest ways. So, subscribe, like, comment, support. But most of all, remember the Aries who cracked something open in you. Remember the feeling, because even if they're gone, they're still with you. In the way you live, in the way you love, in the way you burn just a little brighter now. And that is the secret of the zodiac. We'll see you in the next one.